Alright, so I had to use a little bit of an unconventional method to get this assembly up and out of the frame, because it's been down in the down positions after these torsion springs broke for the last how many years? 30, 40 years, and it sat outside. So what we did was we started on the floor, on the shop floor, and since we've already done it, I'm not going to recreate the process, but I'll describe it to you. First, we started out with one 2x4 or 2x6 and just laid it on the shop floor on this little lip right here. We only wanted to contact this little lip, not on the seat frame. We wouldn't want to damage that. And then set this 2x4 like so. Having assistance from another person to help hold me from falling over, I used those 200 plus pounds I mentioned earlier, and one foot on each side, and stomped down on the frame, and finally got it to move, and blocked it up with another 2x. Did the same thing again until we maxed it out. Now the unit is up and it's out to where we can actually work with it. So the next step is, since we've got our roll pins out, we're going to take this tie bar plate. Should just pop off if everything's right and the sun and the moon are aligned. Alright. Well, you can see on that plate, this is some of the original decal that talked about where these adjusters need to be. And there's, of course it's not all there, but numbers 1 through 9, and it gave you a range depending on light, average, or heavy on the adjustment of your float ride seat. So if yours doesn't have this, the only way to get it is to really obtain an original decal. I think anybody who supplies decals, good restoration quality decals, can provide those. I'm not sure if OEM, if John Deere still has that decal available or not. Maybe worthwhile checking. Well, the next step, I think, is to try to remove the torsion springs. And in this case, our ends, the rubber is so shot that it may just twist out, perhaps. Safety glasses. Always remember safety glasses. Well, at least this bushing is not frozen onto the shaft, nor is this one. That's a good sign. The next step in this process is going to involve driving on these pins, and also back here we're going to insert chisels. I like to use big, flat, big, thick chisels, and just taking our time as to not spring the frame. Now I put a little bit of pressure there. Now I've got to remember to be careful not to moor these ends up, or the bushings won't come off of the shaft. Alright, so just in case you've been a little overzealous with old Betsy here, and you've happened to mushroom the end of those shafts, a little sandpaper, or in our case a die grinder, is a great way to fix your mistake and back up a few steps. So what we want to do is pull these bushings out if we can. And penetrating oil or grease or some sort of an oil here would not be a bad idea. Alright, now we've got those bushings out. It's going to enable us to use our air hammer. Now, of course, we need hearing protection and safety glasses to do this. Alright, now we're ready to, using our flat mandrel bit on our air hammer, which helps prevent us from mushrooming the end of these stub shafts, we're going to try to drive this tie bar plate, or the main pivot pin plate, out of the torsion springs. And it's also important when we do this, we've already broken these loose, but if you may be able to take like some quick clamps between here and here. Actually, we've got them right here. to help prevent damage to our arms and the frame. All right. Now we're going to switch bits to my flat punch. All right, there we have our pins, and they actually look somewhat sprung or bent. This could be an interesting adventure. We'll have to do some reconditioning work on this perhaps. So now we're ready to remove the torsion springs from the float ride arms. So using a flat mandrel bit again, very important, there's these two locating tabs, not to beat on those tabs, because if you do you're going to mushroom the tab and it's not going to want to release the spring. If you're using just a hammer and it's not this rusted, you can probably get by a hammer and a big flat punch, hitting here, here, and here. And then once you get them loose, we've already gotten these loose, just so you know. I'm not that great with an air hammer. So you knock them loose. And the big thing too is when we're doing that, I was laying this on a workbench and supporting these arms with a 2x4 just about right height, to make sure that you're not putting extra stress on these arms while we're doing this. The next step is we're going to drive these pins out, but we've got to get set up first, and we'll be back in a second.